Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another Foam Stamps 101 video. Today we are going to do gears and hardware. So these are fun to make guy cards or just when you're doing some kind of a project and you want to make it look like you've screwed something together. We're going to make it look like screw heads. So just all different sorts of little fun things to play with. And I started out just using some of these foam shapes that I got from the Salvation Army, but you can do your own shapes. You don't need to have them pre-cut. I was going to show you, like, there are ovals and circles, which is mostly what I'm going to use, and I'm going to use a hole punch. But if you don't have these cutouts, you can use, this is just the top off of like a deodorant stick when you roll it up and then you take the top off, but this has a really nice edge on it, and you can just take that and push it onto your foam to give you a really nice oval to cut around, and then you can use that oval to do something with because it works really well, and then you just cut that out. I also found this what do you call it? Trivial Pursuit, I think it was, game. And I collect game pieces that I used to go to the Goodwill warehouse, or some people call them the bin store, the Goodwill bins. And so people just throw stuff around and all of the games come apart and all the pieces wind up all over the bottom of the bins. And I used to just go through, I would just grab a basket, just a little basket or something, and I would just go through and I would pick out all of the game pieces because games are really big in our family, and I've always just loved the pieces, so they're fun to play with. But so I thought maybe, see, now look at that one. That will make a really cool gear, I think. So I'm going to cut around the outside edge of that, and to give it a little bit of a, because where it's dented, it's not going to show up. So I don't want to go right next to the dent. I want to cut just a little bit larger than that so that it has a circle around it. And I'm like, oh, maybe 1/8 of an inch from the edge here. So I'm going to try and cut about 1/8 of an inch bigger all the way around. And then it will have a circle edge around it. And I think that will look pretty cool. But if you don't have one of these game pieces, and the thing is, if you have the game that this goes with, you can take it out, do this, and put it back, because this is not going to harm your game piece in any way. So you're not going to even get anything on it, no paint or ink or anything on it. You're just going to press it into the foam and then go put it back. And I may not have really pressed quite hard enough, because it is lifting a bit. So, but I could line it back up and do it again, but I will try it. I'm going to glue it down and try it. And then if it has gone away, I will just push it back on there again. Maybe but I don't want to. Let's see here. I can turn it over and do it on the other side and just kind of line it up all the way around. And maybe instead of just pushing down, maybe I'll use my fingers and push up. Just make sure that it doesn't move, and push up and down. Maybe that will give me a better impression. The other thing, with these foam stamps, if you heat your foam up a little bit and then you stamp in it like this, where you're not really like, you know, like when we use our pen, we are really making a line that's denting the foam. But like this one, where you're just pushing onto it, you can use heat to help that happen. So I will make a note of that, and we'll do that one week too. Maybe we'll do that next week. So hopefully that will stay where it's at. But if it doesn't stay well, we'll fix it up next week. So there we go. What a simple gear was that. I'm not going to bother cutting this out because I do have some ovals here. So, but that is a way to get a nice oval if, like I have a hard time doing ovals. And for circles, you know, like the cap of your glue stick or, you know, just anything like that. So you can find things to make these shapes without having them already pre-cut or having a punch. And I thought, I didn't think about this when I was doing my samples, but I thought, I wonder, you know, like you could actually do a gear that was shaped like a triangle or like a square. You can do them any way that you want to. And what I do with my hole punches, and I'm sure you probably can't see it. It's hard for me to even see it when I use it. I haven't figured out exactly. Maybe a little bit of white paint would work better. It would show up better because it's so shiny it's hard to see. But I have a black mark here and a black mark down here right at the center of the circle on both sides so that I can line things up a little bit to try and make them about the same. I also have a line right here, right at the center of the circle that going that way. And I also use this like, I don't know what this is, but this piece here, how it has just a little bit of matte. Let's see here. Let's put this here if this may help. So see how that's that wide? So a lot of times when I punch, I will punch a hole and then I will line it up. I will put that like next to the hole and then punch the next hole and then line it up and punch the next hole. Well, here, we'll do it on this one because we're going to punch this one anyways. So just go ahead and make the punch like that. And then line up this little edge. And I'm just kind of eyeballing center of my white strip here. But line up the silver edge to the edge of the hole. And so then as you go along, all of your circles will be about, line up that silver piece right at the edge of your circle. And your holes will all be about the same distance apart. So, and the other thing is, and I don't have one in here, but because Fun Foam is a little bit staticky, like when you punch it like this over and over, if you have a dryer sheet and you rub it on your punch, it helps like for your little pieces to come out and not be like, sometimes they'll come out and they'll stick all over your hands or whatever you've got around. So that helps some. So I'm just lining that up and continuing to punch because we're going to actually use this. We'll use the punches and we'll use this strip here because punching like this, we can make kind of like a chain. We'll just do a couple more because we want it to be long enough. You can do these as big as you want to or as long as you want to. Or if you don't want to make them really long, you know, you can just continue on your paper. If you want to cross the whole paper, you can just use a shorter one and just line them up and just continue to make a long strip. I'm going to just go that far. So, and then what I do with these, kind of to make them look like a chain, I just go ahead and I just cut a triangle like this. And I don't do any kind of measuring, so they're not perfect. And, but that just to me makes it just more organic, more mixed media, you know, like it's not perfect. And most of the things that I do, I don't really strive for perfect. You know, it's easier not to strive for perfect and not to stress about the fact that it's not perfect. That's where it all started from because I was always so, it has to be so exact. And if they were all exact and one of them was a little bit off, I'd have to start all over. It just wouldn't work for me. And, you know, I had to teach myself that, you know, that is just a stressor that I don't need in my life. So, but the thing is, once I got to doing them, I'm just going to cut straight up there and then put an angle on this side, like it's half of one of these triangles. It also gives us a shape kind of like a bolt or something, because it has the little straight pieces between the triangles. And this is, to me, this is like a chain. This can hook my gears together, or I can just use it for whatever I want to use it for. And I'm going to just go ahead and finish so you can see what it looks like. And like I said, don't totally stress. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you really need it to be perfect, go ahead and measure so that you start each one, so that each one of these ends are all the same. But, try, if you really need it to be perfect, make one that's perfect, and then try making one that's not perfect. And, just see if you can do it, and see what you think when you get it done, because a lot of times when you look at it, it just looks, and sometimes it even looks more real, because, if a chain is sitting somewhere, it's not necessarily going to be perfect. So there we go. This is going to be my chain now. You can glue this right on your cardboard just like that. You also can put the glue on your cardboard and give it a bit of a shape to it. And you can like make it longer so that you can kind of, shape it down like that and then up like that, and you can kind of give it a bit of a shape that way. I'm just going to do it straight. Maybe I'll give it a bit of a curve because I do have my samples that are straight. So yeah, maybe when we glue that down, we'll give it a bit of a curve. So, and then all of these little ones, you can use those. We're going to glue some of those down. Now, the triangles I will use for my mixed media stamps, the background stamps where we glue all the little pieces together. So these little triangles work really fun for that kind of thing. I'm going to push those off the edge because I have a whole pile of extra bits down there. I'm going to put that down there too. So these little ones we can make into little screw heads. And I have found with the tiny, tiny ones, trying to do it with a pen is too hard. So I have found that if I take a pin and just kind of press it in the center and really press it down good and go back and forth, I'm just holding that down so I can move my needle, my pin, and then I'm just going to go the other way to make a Phillips head. And just really push down and kind of go back and forth, and that'll get your dents in there. I know this is hard to see because it, excuse me, because it doesn't have a pen mark, but you can see the little Phillips head on there, so we'll glue that one down. Excuse me. And then you can do the straight screwdriver or the straight screw head. And just press hard and go back and forth. I'm not using my point because I don't want to rip it in half. Excuse me. Okay. And then you can leave some even plain where they don't have to have a screw head on them. And then you can also do them in different sizes. And a way to help make them straight is to have a grid of some sort. Now, I have this that I got this from the Dollar Tree, so it's not something expensive. See, I do push on my pin really hard, and my pins are very cheap because it bends. But you can do them with a pen, and I just kind of line it up on my grid. And if you don't have a grid, use your ruler and just make one on a piece of like cardstock or a piece of cardboard that you can just use over and over again. So you don't have to have the fancy things. And to me, this is not really a fancy thing because I got it from the dollar store. But if you don't have a Dollar Tree, then, And I'm going to just put my marks on here and then take it off because I'm trying to teach myself not to write all over my little board. But this does help me just kind of hold it there, and it gives me a nice cross to it. So, and then we're just going to use your pen to push down. And wherever you have pushed that foam back, just like on our doodle stamps and all the other types that we've done, where you push it back, it will leave a spot without ink. So there is a Phillips head, and then you can just easily do, and like if I do it this way, I can line it up at the quarter mark on each side, so I know that I'm in the middle. And I really have, and this pen is running out of ink. That's why I put it here. Actually, it ran out of ink, and then when I started using it to do some of these, the ink came back. Now the ink is gone again, so there we go. And then we can take our, this is a 1-inch circle, so that worked out really well. And I can just mark this one. And I do want to put a mark on it. On this one, I'm just going to say, let's just mark it at the 4 corners, or 4 whatever. And then I'm going to line this up with my line so that I am going in about as deep on each of them. I do like that. And, you know, to have a line there and try it, they're not going to be perfect, but they'll be close. And so sometimes I get them really shallow and really deep, and then I really don't like the looks of them. And of course, our foam just wants to just stick. So just find my little line where I'm supposed to punch, and so there we go. And then maybe just come in the middle and like now maybe line up. I'm going to line up to the back of the hole here. Let me see. Let me give you grab a piece of paper. So see how this guard here, the guard has a hole in it so that the punch can go through, but I'm going to line it up to the back of that hole. So I'm going to go here in the middle and then line that up. I'm going to go till my foam hits the back of the guard hole right there. The guard opening, maybe we would say. Just give that a punch. Now my punch, sometimes it doesn't work really well, so I carefully try and just work it out, and then go ahead and take the circle out. And then if I punch from the same side each time, the part that sticks will be on the bottom on all of them. So I'm just going to line that up, go to the back of that hole, and then just try and, there we go. Just got a couple more and this one will be done. And the thing is, like, this is not necessarily like, oh, this is like the way that a gear is shaped. You know, gears are just like, or actually like cogs or whatever you call these things. You know, there's all different sorts of shapes depending on what it is that they're connecting to and what it is that they're going to move. So like you can just like use your imagination and just make all sorts of shapes. Like I like that shape. It's just kind of fun. So you can just go ahead and like just punch all the way around. Let's just do this one and say, let's make a mark here. And then let's take it and turn it to the center like this. Kind of point those marks towards the corners and just do it again. So we'll have 8 marks, or 8 punches instead of 4. And then just go ahead and line them up with the lines that I have on here. And with the marks that I made. And like I said, you don't have to even do the marks. You can just go ahead and just randomly do it. I'm really getting stuck in there again. The foam really does like to just be very staticky. So there we go. And then you could punch it in the center, or you could fold it in half. Okay, so I did one where I punched it in the center and it wasn't in the center and it was way off and it was really bothering me. So I folded it in half and then I just went ahead and cut like that, which gave me a square center. And then my hole wasn't off center anymore because it disappeared. So there's another one. And you can even do them where you can just go ahead and leave a line in the middle like this, and then come out and cut like that. And so you have something that looks like that. And then you could punch if you want to. Maybe punch all 4 sides. And then if you wanted, you could even punch in the middle, or maybe just punch. And don't forget all of these little bits that you're punching, even the half circles, they make really great background stamps. So you can just take a big piece of cardboard and just paint some glue on it. I don't hardly have room here, but I'm not going to do it. I didn't punch one here, even though I punched one everywhere else. But if I punch it there, it's going to be so close. I think I would rather have the wide spot than to have it so close. So I'm going to leave that one just like that. So let me see here. And then you could even just draw lines. Just go ahead and draw a star. That will make it look basically like this. And you can leave them solid so you can have a background and you can stamp a foreground on top of it. So you can have 2 colors on your gears. So, and I don't know what these will look like. So let's just maybe punch 2 punches on each side. Will it look like a gear? I don't know. Might be fun though to line them all up when you're putting gears on your paper. Since they don't really have to turn, they don't have to be real to life. That's the whole point of creating, is you're just creating whatever you're creating. I was going to put a hole in the middle, but I don't think so, because I really like these little little arrows on the end. Those look really kind of cool. But it's a gear. It needs to, I know what I'll do. I will just put a little tiny dent in the middle. It doesn't have to have a hole punched all the way through it. Then that light spot will not be as big as a hole that was punched. And then I went ahead and I did one of these. And I lined it up with my mark to come down. And then I lined it up with using the spacing of the width of this guide here. And so I just went all the way around like that. I think I didn't get that one quite deep enough because And of course, you'll take your time, so you'll be able to clean those out a little bit more often than I just did. Can't see my line. There we go. There we go. And then put a punch. I want to clean these out a little bit because I do want to keep these two that I punch out. So I'm just going to put a punch somewhere at this end. I'll leave that there. And come down and put a punch at this end. Okay, now I'm going to turn that into a screw. So I'm just I'll make this a straight one. So again, just push it with my pin, and then I'm going to put it back in there. Like that. So when I stamp it, it will look like a screw, I think. I do have a sample one, but I did that at the very end, so it wasn't dry. So I haven't been able to test it yet. Need to get that line in there. Okay, now this one goes a little bit like that, and that one is straight, and I'm going to leave it like that so that it looks even more a little bit like screws. So now we have all different sorts of gears, and we need to glue them down. We can even glue a few of these. And get this on my pincushion, even if it's bent. So the way that we glue them down, if you haven't been watching the whole series, is we're just going to paint some glue onto our cardboard. Whoops, that wasn't good. And then we are going to stick them, I need a little bit of water to help spread it out. We are going to stick them under a book with some parchment paper on top so that the book doesn't stick to our glue. And my glue is getting really thick. Normally, if you had a new thing of your tacky glue, it would spread a little bit easier. But if it just spreads too hard, you can put just a touch of water on it, not too much, but that will help it spread better. We're just going to do it like that. And then we will just put all of our gears on here, put them under a heavy book, and let them dry. The hardest part of making your stamps is this part right here. Having to set them aside. Oops, I put that one on upside down. Okay, here is my little screw. And these ones, a lot of times I will kind of line them up on the same, like kind of a grid, a square of them, so that if I want to use them, I will take this and cut it out as a square and just kind of round the corners so that the cardboard doesn't touch my projects. But then I can use, they're easier to punch or to stamp with if you do it that way versus trying to cut. These are so small, they're hard to cut out. So I will show you. I did one with 6, and that doesn't work very well. So you really want 4. You want them spread out a little bit so that if you want to use just this one, you can go ahead and just take that corner of your stamp, I'll show you in a second, and put it in your ink, and then stamp it on whatever you are working on. Alrighty, so we are going to put this, here's a couple extras. I'm not going to put those on there. I'm going to leave them there for the background stamp. We missed this one. We can't miss this one. Let me see. Oh, no. All right, we're going to take off these two plain ones. We don't have to have those there. Put a little bit more glue here, because the glue has dried. And these ones you won't see till next week, because this does have to dry, but I do have samples of all of these except for this one. Oh, and the triangle. I don't have a sample of that one either. So next week you'll get to see what those two look like. I'm going to get my parchment. There's that one that I did just a little bit ago. Here's my other piece of parchment. There we go. Okay, it's got parchment on it. It's under a heavy book, and it will dry for a few days before I get a chance to cut them out. I'm going to put these right over here with all of my other little bits to make a background stamp. And I believe we've already made a background stamp, so you can go back and look at those as to what we do with those, but they really are fun. And let's cut this one out. So once they've dried, then you're going to cut them out. I like to cut them out fairly close so that I know right where the edge of my stamp is. If I just were to use a big square, I wouldn't know where my stamp was. So this way, I know exactly where the edge of my stamp is. And you can also, if you want to, I did it on one of mine, and it does kind of work nice. I used my punch, and I went in, and I punched out all of the cardboard. But it took a while, and I just, didn't feel like doing it to all of them. So you can still see it when you go to stamp. You can see the edges. When you put it on your paper like this, you can see where the edges are of where your little thing is. So that if you want your cogs to fit together, you can go ahead and you can line it up, and you can put, like part of it in there so that it looks like they're making each other turn. Okay, so that's how you cut out your stamps. I like to not leave corners. So even if it's square, I kind of like take the little point off of a corner. And then put a handle on the back, which is just masking tape. And so you just take a length of masking tape, hold on to each side. You're going to have these little wings left over on each side. You're going to fold it up in the middle, press it together, keeping your wings out here. Press those wings onto your stamp. And now even when you store them, that folds down like that, so it's not in your way. I've seen people use all sorts of things. Like I could use game pieces. I've seen people use game pieces on them, which is actually kind of fun. But then you have to have a place to store them that's bigger, because you have to, account for whatever you put on for a handle. So here we go now. Hopefully these aren't pushed down too far. Hopefully I didn't dent them down too much. And we're going to see what that looks like. So let's get a piece of paper. We'll put this down here. And I do have, here's the chain. And there is one of the cogs where we left the center and cut the little triangle out. Here's the one that I had punched a hole in the center. It didn't work well, so I went ahead and cut a square in the center. There's the one where I said you could just draw the lines like the game piece. And that one I punched a hole in the center. Okay, this is what I was talking about with your screws. Now, I would use 4 screws a little bit more spaced apart, so that if you want to put just a flat screw onto your project, you could just take that corner, put it on your ink pad like that, and then take that corner and put it where you wanted it. So then you've got just your little screw head. But when they're too close together, like there's my little screw head, and then right here is a little bit more ink because I got that ink on the one next to it. So space them apart a little bit. You know, you maybe like, let's say a 1-inch square with them being out at the corner of each of the 4 corners. And then talking about the rounded edges, a 1-inch square, but then also round your edges so that the point of that cardboard does not get in your ink and touch your paper. Because when you leave that point sticking out there, even if it's, you know, not much, a lot of times it grabs the ink and it puts it on your paper. So that's why I try and round my edges. So here is the one that's plain. And here is our 4 cogs with the punches between them. And these are just, you can use these like rivets, because rivets don't really have any markings on them like the screws do. And then here is our flat screw head and our Phillips screw head. And like I said, you could do bolts by cutting them, you know, with the straight edges and everything. So let's set these out here and see what they look like. So I want to try this one first. So, and I get all of my ink pads at the Salvation Army, at garage sales. I think I bought some through D-Stashes on YouTube. I never pay full price for them because I don't use them enough. And be careful, don't get yourself too many. Things like glue, markers, and ink pads, like if you don't use them, they can dry up. So you don't necessarily need a ton. So let's see how this is going to work. Now, you don't need to press hard on your foam stamps. Put it on your paper. Give it a chance for the ink to soak off of the foam and onto your paper. I am going to push a little bit where I think those screw heads are, just in case they were kind of too far up in the other foam piece that they don't touch. Let's see how that looks. Oh, I like that. Isn't that cool? So you could do that, you know, like with this one too. You could take this one and put the 4 little punch outs back in there after you make it into a screw. And what happens is you still get that circle because it was punched out of there. And then you get your little, this one is Phillips head. The one that we just made was a straight head. But see, I think that is awesome. So I really like the way that turned out. And so here is this one. I mean, these are just fun. And like I was saying, this one is the one that I did punch out. So I could see if I wanted to say, this one is going to hook right into the cog right there. So I'm going to put it like that so I can see where my rounded part is and where this part is, where they fit together. Got stuff all over me. Okay, and then we could do a little bit of our chain. And this is the one where I said you can, oh, I don't think I made the other one rounded. I was going to kind of round it a little bit. But you can hook these together. So we'll just take this one, and I'm going to just kind of line it up into that space there. I guess you wouldn't have a chain hooked into one of those spaces, but you never know, maybe it's a lever. But then you can also, if you want it to be longer, you can make a great big long one, or you can just take this one. And now this is the way I did it before. So this end and this end are the same size. And what I'm talking about is this flat part here might not be the same on both ends. So I just turned it around. It was like this. And I put ink on it. I'm going to do it like this so that I can line that up. And I know that that's going to be the same width because that might be 1/4 of an inch and this one might be 1/8 of an inch. So, but they'll line up if you use the same one. So now if I want to make another one, I want this end to touch right here. So I would turn it around and make it touch. We'll just do a light stamp off. I don't think there's much ink on here, but make it line up like that. So that one, this one is a little bit wider than this one. So it just matches up just a touch better. There we go. So, but it's just fun to do it. And you know, like we could take this, let's grab a different color. Take this there's a Phillips head right there. And just take that one, and maybe it needs to be screwed down right there. So put that Phillips head there. And again, I wish that these ones were wider apart. I didn't think about it when I was gluing them down, or I would have left them further apart. Put this straight head right here. And so it's just fun to do things like that. So here is our screw head that's a straight head. See how nicely those work out? These ones I did do with a pen because they are big enough to do that, instead of using the pin. There is our Phillips head. Pressed on that one a little bit too hard. Let's see, we've done those. Let's look at these cogs. And just, you know, try all different sorts and different sizes, because like these are all like the 1-inch circles, but let's see, I might put this, you see, I'm going to look right there, kind of line that up and put it there. Like that. And I like this one with the little triangles in it too. And if you don't remember how I did this, just go back a little bit. This is just like the ones we just did. This is one of the ones that I folded in half. And, you know, just go back and look to see how I did it. If you think, oh, I really like the way that one looks, how did she do it? So the videos will always be here for you. I don't do like the classes. I've had somebody ask me, why don't I do a class? But, you know, the classes, they charge for, and I would prefer to do this way. You know, if you want to leave a tip, you can leave a tip in the tip. There's a, well, don't worry about it. But, I would prefer to do this so that you have them, and they're always here for you to look at. So no matter what. Because that's really why I do this. I don't do it for any other reason. So here we go. I'm going to like, see this one? Just line it up like that. And because I know that this one is right at the end, I can just go ahead. I could do this all the way around like rivets. Because I can see that like, oh, I want to be about that far spaced. Because that's about what those are. And I know that that's the end of that stamp. So you could go all the way around your paper with those. And here's the one where it just has the lines drawn on it with the circle in the middle. And there we go. So they're just really fun to play with. And then you can take them and you can go over top of them with other colors. Kind of looks like it's got a little bit of patina to it because it's blue. And you can just make them go any which way. And the smaller ones, like I did all of these ones here. I did the whole stamp. Because what you can do is take your punch and punch them out. I did this one on cardstock. Take your punch and punch them out. And then you could glue them on a card. Like a little, I like to do that. I like to glue them on because it makes them look just a little bit puffed up. So it really does look like the head of a screw. So, or you could even put them on like this type of cardboard. And then that makes them even bigger. And that's really fun to do. Just stamp them on there and then use your punch to punch them out. And then you'll wind up having a little screw head, which you can buy little screw heads, but why bother when you can just make your own? So there we go. There's a little screw head that can go on your card or whatever. And if you have like some maybe silver paint or something, you could do the stamping in silver paint. And then it would look like a silver screw head. But yeah, see, that's very cool. And you can put them wherever you would want to put them on your project. So that is today's project. We'll look at the last couple. I forget, the triangle and something else. We'll look at those. I'll stamp them after they're all dry and show them to you next week. This one, I really like this one. I think it's pretty awesome. So, and again, we're getting a lot of the basics down. So if there are things that you think I want to learn how to do this or that, just let me know, because we'll figure it out, possibly. If I can't figure it out, I will tell you. But, you know, I think stamping is fun. I think making my own stamps is really fun, and I enjoy using what I have made. So I hope that you enjoy using yours too. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.